If you've watched me for any amount of time at all on my channel, I talk about race a lot. I talk about the bigotry and the hate that exists within the Republican Party. I talk about the Republican Party being the largest and most organized white supremacy organization on the globe. And one of the elements of that is several members of Congress who are avowed Christian nationalists. And when you hear the term Christian nationalist, you should just automatically understand that it is white Christian nationalists. There is no black Christian nationalist. That's not a thing. It is an exclusively white byproduct of racism and fear of their flavor of Christianity. And Marjorie Taylor Greene is one of these people. Avowed Christian nationalist who is invited to speak at and accepts the invitation of Nick Fuentes to speak at white Christian nationalist conferences. And she, now on committees, they're having a conversation in this committee about the actions that led to the death of Tyre Nichols in Memphis, Tennessee. And she talks how terrible it was, and then expectedly, but inexplicably pivots to, yeah, that's really bad and all, but there's a lady in the audience whose daughter was killed by police. That woman, her daughter's name was Ashli Babbitt, and then goes on to have sympathy and draw attention to a woman who was a QAnon adherent, who tried to overthrow the United States government by force by overturning a free and fair election, who almost made it onto the House floor to commit who knows what mayhem. Watch this moment, despicable moment from Marjorie Taylor Greene in committee just the other day.
And it was tragic and extremely difficult to watch. I would also like to point out that that city is Democrat controlled, and the 5 officers that have been arrested and charged are black. And I think that this isn't an issue of racism or anything like that. I think that the judge and the jury and the trial needs to work out what happened there. But I share that with you. But I'd like to also point something that I'd hope you share with me. There's a woman in this room whose daughter was murdered on January 6th, Ashli Babbitt. And Ashli Babbitt there's never been a trial. As a matter of fact, no one has cared about the person that shot and killed her, and no one in this Congress has really addressed that issue. January 6th committee didn't address it. And I believe that there are many people that came into the Capitol on January 6th whose civil rights and liberties are being violated heavily. And this committee will, I hope, Mr. Chairman, look into those civil rights abuses because they're happening in a jail right here in this city. And I hope Ms. Norton will care about that as well.
Gross, disgusting, reprehensible. Yeah, Tyre, that's sad and all, yeah, but it's not racism because those cops were black. The real injustice is that Ashli Babbitt was murdered, she says. She categorizes a woman who stormed the United States Capitol with a mob. Amidst them were people with shirts that said Camp Auschwitz on them, parading through the Capitol with Confederate flags. A hangman's gallows constructed, not hastily constructed, planned and executed, built on the lawn of the United States Capitol, but 1,000 feet from where they were chanting, "Hang Mike Pence." They came with an objective to overturn a free and fair election, to disenfranchise you and millions of other Americans if you voted for Joe Biden, because they wanted their dear leader back in office. A violent attempt at overthrowing our government. She wasn't murdered. And they are securing conviction after conviction after conviction of these individuals who did indeed attempt to overthrow the United States government. for the power, for the party of law and order, and back in the blue, and blue lives matter, until it butts up against their ideology and their base. Tyre Nichols wasn't a domestic terrorist. Tyre Nichols, the accusation from the police that ended up killing him was that he recklessly drove, which has been rebutted by the chief of police herself in Mississippi, or excuse me, in Memphis. She says there's no evidence of that. So what we know is really there was no crime committed by Tyre Nichols. There's no comparison to be drawn between Ashli Babbitt, the QAnon clown, and Tyre Nichols. But leave it to Marjorie Taylor Greene. Leave it to the Chaos Caucus. Leave it to the Republican Party to put her on a committee to create a spectacle and a circus and a distraction from what really needs to be accomplished in our country. That is where we are. So thanks a lot, Kevin McCarthy. Bang up job you're doing as Speaker of the House of Representatives, making cover for insurrectionists and insurrection apologists like Marjorie Taylor Greene.